people think that Jesus can come back at any time, that his return is imminent. But that's actually not true, because the Bible says there's certain things that have to be in place before he returns, like a new temple has to be built. The Jews are planning for it as we speak. But why is this a prerequisite for the return of Jesus? And Jesus tells us in Matthew 24 the answer to that. So today, Joel Richardson is going to make some sense of all of this for us. Join us as we continue our Are You Ready series. So the Bible does say, it seems to be, that a new temple needs to be built. So should we be looking out for that? Like, oh, today in the news, the Palestinians are now letting us build talk.
Yeah, the scriptures are clear. So this is incredibly controversial among Christians. The scriptures are clear. There will be a temple rebuilt. Now, it could be something as simple as a tent. Like, it could be something that just gets whipped up overnight. It could be a full-blown brick and mortar structure. And certainly a lot of the Orthodox Jews in Israel they're pushing for that every day. Vast majority of the secular Israelis really could care less, but in fact, I guess Netanyahu just took over and we have a bit more of a religious government. But those that are a bit more religious definitely want this. But the scriptures are also clear that this will happen. So, first of all, the Bible is clear that sacrifices will be reestablished in the temple in Jerusalem. This is the single most definitive, emphasized sign in all of the Bible to watch out for, is the abomination that causes desolation, the ceasing of offerings in the temple in Jerusalem. This is not spiritual, it's not mystical, it is literal. And really, there's no way, you would have to be a Gnostic, just hyper-spiritual mystic to try to make this anything other than literal. So Daniel, again, lays the foundation for this idea and for the concept of the abomination that causes desolation and the ceasing of offerings. You have 4 references in the book of Daniel where these 2 phrases or something similar to it is reiterated.
Joel, why do they want to sacrifice again? Like, what we're talking Jews, so why would they want to start that?
Because this is, for the religious Jews, their understanding is that they have a covenant with God. That's the Mosaic covenant that God made with Israel. It's a betrothal ceremony. It's a betrothal covenant that God made with Israel at Mount Sinai. And their faithfulness is contingent on obeying this. And without a temple, like, a high percentage of Torah can't be obeyed. So, of course, they want to be obedient to God. They want to be obedient to the covenant. If the covenant lays out what's called the curses and the blessings. God says, if you obey me, here's what's going to happen. You'll be blessed. Crops will be blessed. You'll have peace with your neighbors. All will go well. I will be your God. You will be my people. But if you don't obey me, here's what's going to happen. Your crops will fail. You'll have crazy animals, wild beasts. You'll have problems with your neighbors. You'll have all these calamities. So, there's sort of repercussions to obedience, and they want to be obedient. It's real simple. They want to be obedient to God, so they want to be able to fulfill Torah, the commandments, the instructions that God gave them at Mount Sinai.
Okay.
So in Daniel 8, 9 through 11, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you've got this very clear reference to, and it references the abomination of desolation and the ceasing of offerings. So I'm not going to get into this in great detail, but the Antichrist, who the greatest historical prophetic prototype of the Antichrist is a man named Antiochus Epiphanes IV. You can read about him. This is about 250 years before Jesus or so. You can read about him in the extra-biblical book of Maccabees. Talks about what he did. Really bad guy, Greek. He came into Israel, came into Jerusalem. He made Torah illegal. He made obeying Judaism illegal, and he killed like 40,000 people. He exiled roughly another 40,000. Really bad guy. So it kind of, Daniel 8 is using the events that he did as a picture of what the Antichrist will do in the last days. So it says the place of his sanctuary being God, or Jesus' sanctuary, was thrown down on account of transgression. The armies of Israel, the people of Israel, will be given over to the Antichrist. He's referred to here as the little horn, along with the regular sacrifice. The term there is tamid in the Hebrew. It's the daily, perpetual sacrifice. That will be given over to the Antichrist. Verses 12 through 14, one angel says to the other, "How long will the vision concerning the regular daily sacrifice, the tamid, apply, while the transgression that causes horror," that's another way of saying the abomination that causes desolation. And he said it's going to be 2,300 evenings and mornings. Then the holy place will be restored. So you have a reference to the abomination of desolation, the ceasing of offerings in Daniel 8, let's say 9 through 14. Then you have it again in Daniel 9, 24 through 27. It says the Antichrist will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offerings, and on the wing of abominations will come one who makes desolate. Again, there's those two phrases. There's the offerings. There's the abomination that makes desolate. Then you have it really clearly in Daniel 11:31. Forces from him will arise. They will desecrate the sanctuary fortress, do away with the regular. So do you see the literal language here? Like, this is not talking about mystically it's us because we're the temple. It's forces from this individual will arise. They will desecrate the sanctuary fortress. They will do away with the daily sacrifice. They will set up the abomination of desolation. And then finally in Daniel 12, verse 11, from the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up, there'll be 1,200. So Daniel references these things 4 times. He reiterates it. Then Jesus and Paul come along and they use Daniel as their foundation. Jesus in the Olivet Discourse, in his sermon on the end times, Matthew 24, he says, therefore, his disciples go, tell us about the end times. What should we watch for? Jesus says, when you see with your eyeballs the abomination of desolation that was spoken of by Daniel, let the reader understand. Let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. There's a very geographic-centered nature to this. Okay, this is not some mystical thing. It's Judea. It's the abomination of desolation in Jerusalem. Whoever's on the housetop, don't go down, for then there will be a great tribulation such as has never occurred. We've already looked at that. In 2 Thessalonians, Paul expounding upon Daniel and Jesus. He says, look, guys, don't let anyone lie to you. Don't let anyone deceive you. The day of the Lord, the rapture, the catching up of the church, the resurrection. He goes, the return of Jesus. That's not going to come unless 2 things come first. The apostasy and the man of lawlessness is revealed. We're going to come back to this. And there it is, the son of destruction. That's the joke with Kamala. Who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. And then again in Revelation, John, he makes similar references. So again, you've got Daniel, Jesus, Paul, and John, all references. Then there was given me, John, a measuring rod like a staff, and someone said, one of the angelic narrator says, get up and measure the temple of God and the altar and those who worship in it. But leave out the outer court of the temple. Don't measure it because it's been given to the Gentiles. And he goes, and the Gentiles are going to tread this thing underfoot for 3.5 years. So you've got multiple references in the New Testament, but Jesus' main point is pay attention to what Daniel said. And Daniel didn't just make one passing reference. He made 4 references in Daniel 8, 9, 11, and 12. He reiterated, he emphasized this, he made it clear. He used very literal, straightforward language. And Jesus says, when you see these things, then know that the time has come. So it's not ambiguous language. It's not, there's always room for debate about the finer points, but the main point here is very clear. There will be a temple that will be reestablished. Sacrifices will be reinstituted. Again, as I said, it could be something as simple as some type of a tent that gets thrown up. It could be some, really brick and mortar beautiful thing. By the way, the Orthodox, you can go online and look at the plans that they have to rebuild the temple. I mean, there's videos and architectural designs and this type of thing. It's very, very, yep.
All right, I hope that was very helpful to you. I'm going to put a link to the End Times conference that we did with Joel below here. And if you want to know more about Joel, you can go to his website, joelstrumpet.com. So happy that you're joining us for this series, and I hope you're going to learn lots and lots about end times. See you next week.